Hello, this is Alan at NowGamer.
And I'm Alex at NowGamer.
So you've been playing Dead Space 3?
I've been playing through it, and this is probably one of my favourite sections of the game. This basically is an unkillable necromorph. I know that we've seen this in Dead Space 2 as well, but this is possibly the most classical Dead Space section of the whole game. You're tasked with basically you realise you can't kill this thing, and you just have to sort of run through this spaceship, avoiding everything that jumps out at you. It's quite tense, it's quite claustrophobic, and it's probably the closest you'll get to a traditional Dead Space setup in the game.
Can I be honest with you, Alex? I hated this bit in Dead Space 2.
Yeah, it's certainly a game that's going to divide opinion among fans. A lot of people aren't going to like a lot of the new elements, and even the things that are more traditional Dead Space, I still don't feel particularly groundbreaking or innovative. I mean, even this feels like we've been here before, so it's treading a difficult balance, and I'm not sure it always gets it right.
So it's not very classic?
No, most of the game isn't like this. This is about as classic as it's going to get. These dark corridor sections probably only make up maybe just under half of the game. A lot of it is open world sections, the frozen planet, get dynamic clip scenes and cutscenes and things like that. So it's definitely a game which is going to be difficult to swallow in some sections for a lot of fans, I think.
It does sound like fans are going to hate it.
Yeah, I think that's probably... I don't think there's a lot to like about the game. A lot of the gameplay elements do work, a lot of the new mechanics are quite enjoyable. It's just that if you are looking for a classic slice of horror and survival, then probably going to be left a little bit disappointed by a lot of what the game has to offer. Yeah.
Would you say it's a difficult game?
Not particularly. I mean, this was probably one of the most challenging sections of the game because you can't kill those things. A lot of the time you end up just running and using kinesis and trying to survive and managing your inventory, but most of the game wasn't particularly taxing. The puzzles in particular are just a case of trial and error. There aren't any puzzles that are difficult at all, which was disappointing.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing, though?
Well, some people might enjoy the fact that they can just quickly get through the puzzles, but I was looking for something a little bit more taxing.
Yeah.
This section is something you're going to be doing a lot. This is right at the start of the game, in the prologue, and basically rappelling is probably overused. It would have been okay if they'd used it a couple of times, 2-3 times throughout the game, but there are some parts of the game where you're literally just doing this over and over again, and it does begin to get tiresome.
Why did they even have rappelling?
I'm not entirely sure. I think the idea was to break up the elements where you're just plodding through corridors and shooting aliens and doing something a little bit more dynamic, a little bit different. And you can see why they tried to bring in new elements, but it does feel very Uncharted.
I'll be honest, Alex. Again, it doesn't look very good.
No, it's quite it's quite an experience to play through. It feels quite dynamic. It feels quite enjoyable, but at the same time, it's not exactly doing anything new that we haven't seen before. It feels like a bit like they've just tacked on elements from various action adventure titles throughout this generation.
It does look a lot like Uncharted. Yeah,
it plays very much like that. And it's not altogether a bad thing. Uncharted is one of the best games of this generation, but I think a lot of fans won't really be pleased to see this in Dead Space.
Yeah. No, look, we got a good space bit here.
Yeah, this is one of the element about halfway through the game. You're piloting this spaceship through this minefield. This is just before the crash. So basically, what irked me about this section was that no matter how well you pilot this ship, it's scripted so that you will crash land. Things you can do really well, and you can hit all the mines, and you can swerve around, and you can stay on course, but you basically cannot prevent the inevitable, which is the crash land. So I think it is scripted gameplay, which I think will annoy some people.
Okay, well, it doesn't sound like I'd enjoy it, but it sounds like you enjoyed it.
I did enjoy the game. It had a lot of good things to offer. A lot of the mechanics worked well. A lot of these dynamic things. I mean, I'm a big fan of action adventure titles, so perhaps that's why some of these elements appealed to me, and I enjoyed them. But I can see why, if you're just looking for classic, horror survival, this wouldn't be what you're looking for at all.
So it's not classic.
No, it's definitely not classic Dead Space. The elements that are classic Dead Space make up a very small portion of the game. It's more. There's a lot of these big set pieces, the scripted gameplay, the dynamic cutscenes.
Is this part of the story then?
Yeah, this is quite a critical part of the story. This is just before crash land on Volantis, which is the frozen planet, which was revealed in the demo a few weeks ago. So this is quite an integral part, and that planet itself also makes up about 30-40% of the game.
How is the story then? How is it? as nonsense as the rest.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it doesn't make much sense. The prologue ties into the end of the game quite well, and they've clearly tried to address Dead Space lore. There's about a 3-minute clip at the start of the game.
Did you just say Dead Space lore?
I did. Well, what of it that there is, which is possible to understand. They ran through the events of the first 2 games, which felt like a mechanic just to try and be accessible to new fans.
Okay then, quickly, would you recommend it or would you not recommend it?
If you're looking for a decent action adventure title, I would recommend it. It has a lot to offer. It's good fun in a lot of ways, but if you're a fan of survival horror, I don't think you're going to get much out of this.
I won't. I can tell that much.